everybody. Welcome to The Truth Will Set You Free. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. Again, I have to tell you, I am excited about our guest today. He is very interesting to me. I sought him out. I was just so intrigued by so many things that he do. You talk about somebody that wears so many hats. Dr. Gleb Tsipursky, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on, Linda. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. I want people to know that you're a historian, you're a professional speaker, you're a consultant, you're a coach, a scholar. I mean, it's just so many things you are that we're going to cover as we go along, because to me, I feel like, honestly, Google don't have anything on you.
Thank you so much.
I believe that you have an answer to everything. I mean, it's just so amazing how you have absorbed so much information in such a short time in your young life.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
One of the things that stood out with me, you're a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You went to school. You was getting ready to graduate to be a doctor. And tell people what happened.
Being a medical doctor, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, so I was going to college and I was getting ready to go to medical school. And I had a realization where I understood that medicine was really going to be something I was going for profit and social status, and because my friends were pushing me into it, my parents were pushing me into it, but it wouldn't be really meaningful and fulfilling for me. So I just had this really intense experience where I had that realization, and I called my girlfriend, then now my wife, and we talked about it, and she helped me realize that, I would be making a lot of money, I would have nice status, but it really wouldn't be fulfilling. It really wouldn't match the kind of life I want to live. And so I decided to choose a different career path, one that wouldn't be oriented nearly as much toward wealth, but toward fulfillment and meaningfulness. And I'm very happy I did.
The thing about it was you was getting ready to graduate. It was the test itself, right? The exam, the question they asked you that.
Yes. It was one of the questions on the medical school application. I mean, I got a great score on the medical school exam, so I would have gotten in pretty easily. But one of the questions in the personal essays was, well, why do you want to be a doctor? And that's kind of what made me realize, all this stuff, the profit, the social status, the friendship, the parents, not really coming from me, but from outside of me. And I decided to pursue something that's really meaningful for me. It came from within me and was important for me.
So what is so intriguing about history with you? I mean, you was young with that.
Yeah, so history for me allowed me to pursue my fascination with how people make decisions and how groups make decisions. So I'm a historian of behavioral science. That's kind of the behavioral science aspects of what I do. It's the psychology, taking psychology, behavioral economics, other stuff about how our brain works, and applying it to historical contexts and contemporary contexts. Basically, how groups make decisions, how institutions make decisions, what happens in political contexts, what happens in business contexts, and applying the psychology to those areas. So that's what was really fascinating for me, and that's what I decided to focus on, specialize in, and I'm really glad I did. It allows me to wear all the multiple hats, and even though I don't make nearly as much money as I would have if I was a doctor.
Well, how are you able to decide, like, when you're going into history, because it can cover so many avenues, like when people talk about biblical history, was that boring for you, or it just turned you off? Because did you research the biblical history, or?
No, I wanted to research contemporary history, so stuff that recently happened, so I can analyze and understand what's happening today in today's world. I mean, all respect due to biblical history, it just wasn't not what I wanted to analyze. I wanted to use my historical analysis to help me understand what is happening today in our society, and that's what I'm focusing on, kind of political decision-making and business decision-making in our society today.
And I noticed you were so full of so much knowledge and resources. I was thinking to myself, I said, is there a woman for him? Because it seemed like you are so almost like a machine robot or something, like a computer, because you have so much data. And then I learned that you actually had a wife.
Yeah. My wife, Agnes Vishnevkin, she's the love of my life, and she's what I mentioned earlier. She was the girlfriend who later became my wife, and yeah, we spent quite a bit of time together. It was just spending some time with her before we had this lovely chat, and yeah, she means a lot to me. We spend at least a couple of hours together each day, or at least an hour together each day, usually more like 2 or 3.
And y'all have like minds. That's what I'm saying. I was just amazed that you found somebody that could relate to you on that level, because you started Insight. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, we started a nonprofit organization, Intentional Insights, together. So she has an MBA in nonprofit management, so she knows how to run a nonprofit organization. And I have more of the content expertise in behavioral science. And the nonprofit Intentional Insights, and the website is intentionalinsights.org. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. At intentionalinsights.org is dedicated to promoting research in behavioral science for a broad audience. So again, how do we make decisions in business, in relationships, in politics, in finances, in emotional well-being, personal well-being, mental health issues? How does that happen? How can we make better decisions as informed by science? Because science is a really great tool to use in guiding our daily decision-making. We have a lot of problematic patterns of thinking that cause us to make bad decisions often. And so that's what we are hoping to help people avoid, and we've had a lot of success with that. We've had articles published in Scientific American, Time, Psychology Today, and plenty of other venues like that. And our aspiration is to produce content that is going to be science-based and help people improve their life in a really evidence-based fashion. So that's our aspiration, and that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years together.
Because it's like, you really love humanity. How did you come to have such a concern for us?
Well, I should say always, my ideological perspective is humanism, which is love for humanity. And that is what my philosophical perspective is utilitarianism. Utilitarianism means trying to do the most good for the most number. So combining humanism and utilitarianism, that's what you get. You get kind of a person who tries to maximize positive impact on society. And where I see the biggest difference with my expertise that I can make, and Agnes, my wife, that she can make, is in helping people make better decisions, because decisions are at the root of everything we do. Everything we do depends on our individual everyday decision making, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships. And bad decisions lead to catastrophes. They lead to disasters for couples, for individuals in terms of mental health and well-being, for workplaces. I'm a consultant for a number of organizations I do speaking. And in our politics, they lead to disastrous decision making by individuals and organizations in the political sphere. So we try to help people avoid that by helping people make better decisions.
And so you come up with different programs, different platforms to present this.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember reading too, where you say most of the time when people first see you, instead of saying hi, they ask you where you're from.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You're from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, so that's just kind of a thing to help people be aware of how other people feel and think. So other people mostly have this idea of not really considering other people's perspectives and points of view. And so they casually ask where you're from, not understanding that it might be offensive to some people. And that's a bad decision. I mean, you don't want to offend, right? So that's not what the vast majority of us want to do. And people just don't realize that they do that by asking where are you from casually as the first thing they do when they see something. So I try to help educate people to help them avoid offending. and causing offense, which I'm sure they wouldn't want to do. That's one of my inspirations.
So you take offense to them asking you where you're from?
I do, and plenty of other people do. It sounds unfriendly. If it's the first thing that they ask, it sounds like, hey, you're not from around here. And so that's a experience I and many people who don't fit into the typical American mainstream in terms of where they're locally, geographically based. So if they have an accent or if they look different, it's like, where are you from? And people really have a quite negative experience. And I want to help educate people who might ask that question about that and just help them avoid offending people around them. No reason for that, right?
So being that you've lived in the United States and you also live in the United Kingdom, what is one or two things that's so distinctly different between the two?
In the United Kingdom?
Yeah, in the United States.
Yeah, I'd say that in the United Kingdom, people are more culturally aware of others, and they have much more diversity of people coming from other countries. The United Kingdom is much more reachable, and so compared to the United States, and so people are much more aware of different cultures and cultural diversity. And so that's a really powerful difference that I would note that's quite strong. Another difference with the United Kingdom is a specific culture of formality that you would find less in the United States. In the United States, people tend to be somewhat more casual than the United Kingdom.
And I was wondering, because I know here in the United States, Christianity dominates here. Mm-hmm. Over there in the United Kingdom?
No, Christianity doesn't dominate. There are people's religion is much more private. I mean, certainly people are Christian, but they don't wear the religion nearly as much on their sleeves as they do in the United States. It's not nearly as much a part of public life in the UK or in the vast majority of Europe as it would be in the United States. I mean, obviously the Vatican is a place where this is a very public place, part of life, but not so much in the UK or France or Germany or elsewhere in Western Europe or Central Europe. It's just not doesn't play nearly as powerful a role in public life.
I know I also have saw where you had an experience of a Jesus baptism or some kind of accepting Christ experience that you didn't care for it. It was something about it.
Oh, no, that was my mother took me to when I was 13, took me to a church in the United States. My mother and my father, my parents immigrated to the United States when I was 10, and my mother's mother died, so my grandmother, and she took me to a church to be baptized, and it really wasn't with my consent. It wasn't kind of, she didn't talk to me about it. She didn't explain to me anything about it. She just took me and said, here, you must do this. Like, imagine if somebody's told you, hey, you must go and do this thing right now, this weird ritual, which I'm not going to tell you anything about. You just need to do it because, someone I love died and therefore you should do it for me. You probably wouldn't be very pleased as well. It would be very confusing and you would be upset if that's, I did it to please my mother, but, that was just like not a very spiritual experience for me.
But see, I was wondering if that was the catalyst of your turn off from, because I know you don't care for a divine presence. Did it spring from that experience?
Well, no, I just never grew up with a divine presence. I grew up in the Soviet Union, which was a secular country, so it was never part of my heritage growing up. And my parents came to the United States when I was 10, and my mother was never publicly religious. She just did that. I don't know of any other time that she went to church. I think she just used that experience to comfort herself when her mother died, my grandmother. And so that was it never was a part of my life.
And you also said that it's certain things that people can do, like where a lot of people say you pray, but you said you were saying different things you can do to arrive at the same places of their spiritual experiences, like meditation or.
Absolutely, yeah. Meditation is a wonderful practice that really helps you get into a state of calmness and a state of focus, a state of awareness, which research on this topic shows is quite similar to the state that people get into when they pray. And so it's all about induced, so kind of from the behavioral science background, it's all about an induced state of mental experience. And so the mental experience, if you put someone in an fMRI machine when they're praying or if they're doing certain forms of meditation, their brain regions are going to light up in certain ways. Now, I'm not using this to say, God exists or God doesn't exist. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people's internal experiences, their mental experience, so kind of what we can observe from the outside using scientific instruments. So that's what we can observe.
Okay, and I like the way you said that you're not so much talking about what you don't believe, but what you do believe. Mm-hmm. And I found that's very empowering, even mm-hmm. though some people would find it like, wow, you don't acknowledge a supreme being, but yet you have the same concerns about humanity as Jesus did. You're concerned about people.
I'm a humanist, just like Jesus was a humanist. That's love of humanity is a phenomenon that any person can have, and it doesn't. You also find plenty of religious people who unfortunately don't follow Jesus' path of love of humanity, and it's very unfortunate.
But you are so engulfed in it. I mean, it's like, I remember watching when you was on a TV show and they was talking, I was like, look at this guy. They had Trump and they had Hillary, and they was asking you questions and you was telling them exactly everything that they were doing and what they was picking up from each other. I was like, wow. She was picking up on some of his gestures and he was picking up some, and I hadn't even noticed, and I had seen that time when they were talking, but you just like zeroed in.
Sure. I try to be fair and objective in my commentary and analysis, and in order to help people understand reality better, in order to help people understand their world better. So kind of, it's all going back to decision making. When people, when you have bad information, you make bad decisions. It's like the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing for if you don't pick up on certain cues and tactics that politicians deploy when they're trying to manipulate you, then you're not going to make good decisions. And that's something I try to help people avoid. For both Republican politicians and Democratic politicians, people try to manipulate you. That's why the Pro-Truth Pledge project at protruthpledge.org is one of the most important things that I'm doing to try to address the lies and deceptions in politics. That's really important to me. I think that is the most fundamental issue of our current reality, of our current political reality, the lies and deceptions. And that is what is inhibiting people from making good decisions. And it's very worrisome. So that's what I'm trying to work on and help people make good decisions in that field.
Yeah, that's what you mainly about right now is that pledge program that you have set up. And I mean, it looks like it's really growing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Tell them the name of that program that you created.
It's protruthpledge.org. So again, PROTRUTH PLEGGE.org, protruthpledge.org. It's a website, and what it basically is a project to roll back the tide of lies and deceptions in our political system. That's what it's about. It asks signees to commit to 12 truth-oriented behaviors that research in behavioral science suggests are oriented toward the truth. And folks can go on the website at protruthpledge.org and check it out. Again, protruthpledge.org. And I can read a few of them just to give you a flavor of what they are. So, one of them is fact-check information to confirm it is true before accepting and sharing it. Another is distinguish between my opinion and the facts. Another is reevaluate if my information is challenged and retract it if I can't verify it. Another is ask people to retract information if reliable sources have disproved, even if those people are my allies. And the fifth is celebrate those who retract incorrect statements and update their beliefs toward the truth. And there are 7 more like this that pretty much anyone looking at them would agree, yes, these are truth-oriented behaviors. That's what being truthful means. So I and a group of other behavioral scientists have looked at what does it actually mean to be truth-oriented. Not telling you a specific truth, that's not what it's about. It's about the process. What does it mean to orient toward the truth, to behave in a truthful manner? And these are the behaviors that correlate with truth-oriented behaviors, with a truth-oriented manner. And so that's what we want everyone to commit to. All ordinary citizens, everyone watching this show, should go to protruthpledge.org and sign up to show their commitment to truth-oriented behaviors and to push public figures, and especially politicians, to sign up. Because the more ordinary people do it, the more politicians will be incentivized to do it, and I can talk about that, and they will be held accountable. We have a clear accountability mechanism to hold folks accountable who sign the pledge.
So how do you draw people to come to even take an interest in it? Is it all basically online?
Oh no, there's a lot of in-person interaction. So for example, I live in Columbus, and here we have a number of races. So for example, we have a congressional race in my district, just to give my district, Ohio District 12. And we have 3 Republicans who are running in the primary for the Republican nomination, and 2 Democrats. And so I and other volunteers have gone to each of these people, and we've asked them to take the pledge. And one of the Republicans has already taken it. Another one said he wants to have a sit down with me and talk about it, but he's very likely to take it. Third one said, has not indicated an interest in taking the pledge. And both of the Democrats have taken it. So pretty soon we'll have a situation where 4 out of 5 candidates, two Republicans out of 3, and 2 Democrats out of 2 have all taken the pro-truth pledge. It's kind of an individual approach. Then we have volunteers who go out to fairs and community festivals and events and tell people about the pledge. Hey, do you want to sign up? And then of the percentage of the people who sign up, some people sign up to want to help, say that's one of the things you can do, sign up to help. And then those people get other people in their friendship network, and in there, they start going to fairs and festivals and so on. And so it's spreading through these social networks, through networks of connection and belonging. And because it's a very bipartisan thing, it's neither Republican or Democrat, it's just about these truth-oriented behaviors, it draws a wide network of people. And so these people now start to disseminate throughout the country. So we had over 1,700 people sign the pledge the last time I checked, and over 100 public figures, and pretty important public figures, people like Peter Singer, Steven Pinker, prominent radio show hosts like Ethan Behrman, religious figures like Pierre Wayland, who's an Episcopal bishop, and plenty of other people like that. So a number of politicians. And so certain politicians and other public figures sign it when they hear about it and when they learn what it's about. They're like, yes, this is something I can definitely endorse, thumbs up, I'll sign. Other people will take some time to warm up to it. They need to hear it several times. So this is public figures. Other public figures, I've talked to them and they said, well, hey, these behaviors are kind of, not what I want to spend my time doing. I don't want to be accountable to them. But if you get enough people to sign the pledge so that it becomes a big thing, I'll sign it then. So that's why one of the aspirations we have is to get as many ordinary people as possible to go on the Pro-Truth Pledge website at protruthpledge.org and sign up to get those people along. Because at a certain point, when you have enough people signed up, it looks bad if you're not signing up. You have to ask the question, well, why aren't you signing up? Why is that the case? So we want to get to that tipping point when it will look bad for people to not sign up.
So when people sign up, would they get a declaration sheet or?
Yeah, so when ordinary citizen signs up, she has the opportunity to join a community of people who are other pledge takers, and they have an opportunity to put the pledge on their website, on their business cards, on their there are a variety of things. They can get a t-shirt. So a variety of indicators. We're creating a LinkedIn forum. So LinkedIn, the professional business network, to indicate that someone's a part of the pledge. So to give them credibility, you know. So that is for ordinary citizens. But for ordinary citizens, the main impetus is essentially taking 2 minutes to cast your vote for fighting lies in politics and other areas of public discourse, and they get to be part of the community of people who do that. So it's kind of an activist, but with a reputational, somewhat reputational bonus. For public figures, it's different. So public figure, so I invite anyone who's on the website to click on the Take the Pledge button, the orange button, and you could see that if you roll down, if someone's a public figure, then they get to give a paragraph about themselves, about why they chose to take the pro-truth pledge, along with several links and their public photo, their image, and that gets sent around to all the people who signed the pro-truth pledge. So imagine if you're, let's say, a radio show host. So let's say Ethan Behrman is one of the people who signed the pro-truth pledge. He's rated 57 talk show host in the United States by Talkers magazine. He appears on CNN and Fox. So now that he signed the pledge, his information is going to be sent out to all the people who signed the pro-truth pledge. Now, compare if they know that he signed the pro-truth pledge and their own local radio show host didn't sign the pro-truth pledge who they've been listening to before. Well, why should they listen to their own local radio show host instead of listening to Ethan Behrman, who signed the pro-truth pledge and who they can rely on? And they can also call him out if he shares anything that they think is misinformation. That's the other part of it. So the public figure gets her information with Ethan's his information sent out to all the people who took the pro-truth pledge. They get to list the badge on their website, the public information, and so on. And Ethan Behrman has them his website, so they get listed there. So be publicly credible. That adds that credibility that they are held accountable by an external organization. Just like the Better Business Bureau provides a credibility for a business, this provides credibility for a public figure. And then there's an accountability mechanism where people are held accountable. So volunteers evaluate public figures who took the pro-truth pledge and make sure that those public figures are held accountable. I'm a public figure. I'm being evaluated for what I say on this show. Ethan is a public figure. Any radio show host is a public figure. Any politician is a public figure. Any CEO or executive director is a public figure. We have ministers who took the pledge, they're public figures, and so on. The bishop who took the pledge is a public figure. Anyone who's a public figure gets evaluated to make sure they stick to the pledge. And there's an accountability mechanism. If they are violate the pledge, we have a clear process for what to do in that case.
So basically, this idea kind of came around because of how the 2016 election went, all the deceptions that just went on and on and on. Isn't this what really kind of provoked this?
Very much so. We decided, we were spending quite a bit of energy and potential insights on politics in the run-up to the election, because we saw that there was so much deception, again, garbage in, garbage out, that people were getting really bad information. We wanted to address it. And we thought that, well, okay, the election season will be over, maybe we can move on. But the lies and deceptions simply continued afterward. And we just, we need to invest serious energy into this. So we took a whole bunch of time to figure out this project, consulted with a number of behavioral scientists and others to create it, build up the infrastructure, and rolled it out in late March publicly. And we've already had some success. So for example, there's a Michael Smith in behavior change. There's Michael Smith, who's a candidate for Congress in Idaho, and he posted on his Facebook wall a tweet from Donald Trump being critical of minority and disabled children in classrooms. And we looked it up. The tweet wasn't in Donald Trump's feed. So talking to Michael Smith about that, and maybe Donald Trump deleted the tweet, or it was photoshopped to look like Donald Trump's tweet. But because he couldn't find it in Donald Trump's feed, he edited his statement on Facebook to say that, well, due to a pro-truth pledge I've taken, I can no longer verify that this is an accurate tweet, which is exactly the kind of outcomes we want. We want people to take back their statements, and we celebrate them. We don't punish them. We say, yes, great job. Thank you, Michael Smith, for doing that. Hey, I'm on record saying thank you, Michael Smith, for doing that on this radio show. So It's something we want to make sure to do is to praise public figures who retract incorrect statements and celebrate them for updating their beliefs. So we have worked hard to figure out how to minimize reputation damage for people who behave in appropriate ways, and which includes retracting incorrect information. So that's kind of a lot of stuff that is based on behavioral science. How do you actually incentivize people to pursue behaviors that are going to be socially beneficial?
Well, just looking at how things have been going on with the media, how people are not really making a decision that this is a lie. Do you think that we're going to get beyond that? Do you think that eventually people, it's like they're under a spell?
I think a big problem with people is that they can't distinguish between the liars and the not liars. And there is to go into a little bit into the psychology, there's a phenomenon called confirmation bias, which is something that anyone can look into, Google the term confirmation bias. It's a phenomenon where our brains tend to prefer information and interpret information in ways that confirms our existing beliefs as opposed to challenges them. That's just the way our brains work, unfortunately. So if we can't distinguish between someone who is telling the truth and someone who is not telling the truth, we will prefer to believe whatever is comfortable and convenient to us, whatever confirms our beliefs. And the Pro-Truth Pledge helps us change that, because now it has a clear distinction of who is telling the truth or who is not. Because that, hey, if one person if Ethan Behrman has taken the Pro-Truth Pledge and, another person hasn't, why would you listen to a person who hasn't taken the Pro-Truth Pledge? If Ethan Behrman has taken it, and Ethan Behrman is being held accountable, and that if Ethan Behrman says something that is misinformation, as defined by the pledge, then you can go and, get him to retract that statement through a very clear process defined in the Pro-Truth Pledge. So we're kind of providing that opportunity for people to differentiate between liars and truth tellers.
Because it's going to be important, because how are people going to learn how to vote again?
I think the lack of credibility in news sources is something that's really impeding people's willingness and eagerness to vote. Again, if you know that your candidate took the Pro-Truth Pledge, then you know that that candidate is being held accountable for every one of her words. And that's a powerful thing, that they're being held accountable and they're being monitored, and if they say something that goes into the territory of misinformation as defined by the Pro-Truth Pledge, which is only three things. One is something that's a blatant lie. I'm not a Chinese woman in Hawaii. No, that's not where I am, and that's not who I am. That's a blatant lie. We can all recognize it. Another one is something that goes against credible fact-checking websites. So those we consider blatant lies. And the third is something that goes against the scientific consensus. For example, climate change is caused by human beings, where there's a clear scientific consensus on something that's policy relevant topic, like climate change. That's something that we use as a guidance. So anything that, all of the things we don't comment on from the perspective of the Pro-Truth Pledge, but so people who don't sign the Pro-Truth Pledge, that means that they are not able to commit by those three simple things, and that's you have to wonder why somebody is not going to be willing to commit to those three simple things.
So people actually approach people to ask them?
Absolutely. Yep. So like I said, we approached all 5 candidates in this race in Ohio, and 4 candidates indicated that they would. 3 already did. The 4th said that he would, and 1 candidate, we have not heard from him since we approached him. We approached him several times. We've also approached the senator in Ohio, one of the 2 senators in Ohio, several times, and we have not heard from his office yet. So
you have, your foundation have people who have the responsibility of saying, hey, these people over here needs to sign the pledge.
So yes, so one of the volunteer roles, so when somebody signs the pledge, if someone is on the protruthpledge.org website, they can click on the Take the Pledge, and they could see that one of the things you can do is check the box that says, I want to help with the Pro-Truth Pledge. One of the things you can do if you want to help with the Pro-Truth Pledge is approach politicians and other public figures, like media figures and so on. And you can do that by email, you can do that by phone, you can do that by Twitter, you can do that through personal meetings. We usually make sure to have a personal meetings with the staff people before we officially say that somebody has chosen not to take the pledge, because they can't say that, oh, I missed that email, or I missed that tweet or something like that. So that's why I'm talking about, I feel free to talk about the 5 candidates here in Ohio, in District 12, saying that, hey, one has definitely chosen not to take the pledge after we approached him, his staff, as well as emailing him and tweeting him a number of times.
Yeah, I'm from Akron, Ohio.
Okay, there you go. Yes, so this is Ohio 12, and the representative, so this is the district I'm talking about, so that kind of area.
So is this something you do regularly, or you have set days or time, or is this a 24/7 thing?
Yeah, when I have time, and again, I'm not the only one. We have, so many people throughout the country who are doing this, who signed up to help and who are volunteers and who are pursuing this as their main activism project. And they are approaching politicians in their local areas, and they're getting them to sign up. For example, recently somebody approached his, Randy Waddell approached his state senator in, I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't remember what state it was. But anyway, he approached his state senator, his representative, and the representative said yes and signed up to the Pro-Truth Pledge. That's what happens. That's what lobbying is. You approach people, you talk to them, and you say, hey, I'm your you're my elected representative, I'm your constituent. How about you sign this Pro-Truth Pledge? And if not, why not? And so that's a pretty effective thing. That's how things get done.
So what's your ultimate goal here? I mean,
our ultimate goal is to get as many people as possible to sign the Pro-Truth Pledge, and give the credibility and to those people who sign the Pro-Truth Pledge, because some people refuse to sign. So right now we have 5 candidates in this district race for Congress in Ohio. 4 people out of 5 have signed the Pro-Truth Pledge. Our next step is to go to the media and say, hey, so here's the situation. 4 out of 5 people have signed the Pro-Truth Pledge. 1 has chosen not to. Would you be interested in writing up a story about this topic? And that's something that would help boost the chances of the 4 people who did, and something that would hurt the chances of the 1 person who didn't. So we want to give incentives to people who have committed publicly to being evaluated for their willingness to be truthful and honest. And we want to give them rewards, we want to give them recognition. And we want those people to be the ones who are elected officials. We want those people to be the credible sources of news for listeners, and for those people to be recognized as, yes, these are credible sources of news for listeners because they're being monitored and valued by the Pro-Truth Pledge folks. And anyone can choose to sign the pledge and start monitoring Ethan or me or anyone else, any other public figure who signed the Pro-Truth Pledge at any time. It's a very open, transparent process. So there's no ifs, ands, and buts. It's a very clear standard of what it involves. And we want to, so from the psychological perspective, what this is about is solving the coordination problem. There are lots and lots of people who want more truth in our political system. But how do you coordinate them? How do you get them together? How do you get them moving to address this huge problem? The Pro-Truth Pledge does that. Anyone who signs it puts in their name, their email, the phone number, their address, and the point of that is so we can approach our elected representative and say, hey, this is how many people from your district signed the Pro-Truth Pledge, how about you do it? So it functions as a petition. And if those people want to get emails, then they get emails and they get to take actions where we have, we have action alerts, we help people take various action steps. to encourage their elected representatives to take the pro-truth pledge, and so on. So we have a whole program of activism oriented around truth in politics, and it takes very little effort for someone to sign up. We want to make the barriers as low as possible. And at the minimum level of involvement, it just takes 2 minutes to go to protruthpledge.org and sign up and cast your vote for truth in politics. That's all it takes. That's how little energy it takes. And we hope to coordinate the 2 minutes of the people across the United States who care about truth in politics and who want to do something about this huge problem in our political system. And that's our aspiration and hope, to coordinate their energy and channel it for the public good.
So I take it y'all have a chain that's heading towards the White House. You got a link heading that way you have to have. Is anybody in Washington on the case?
Anybody in Washington on the case of going to Trump? I think he would have to change his behavior radically before he wouldn't be immediately in violation of the pro-truth pledge upon taking it.
But I really wonder how you have so much hope and confidence in humanity for all the things that's going on, road rage and killings and, selfishness, greed. I mean, how do you have that hope?
So I don't have hope, I have probability. I don't have hope, I have probability. So I know that if I don't do anything, there's a 0% probability of something changing. If I do something, there's higher than 0% probability.
Wow, that's interesting.
So so I definitely want higher than 0.
So because of your efforts, you feel like there's hope for humanity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, it's definitely higher than 0. So, there was a famous American politician, Edmund Burke, who said the greatest mistake you can make is not doing something if you can only do a little bit. That's that's a really powerful statement, and I live by that statement. The greatest mistake you can make is not doing anything if you can only do a little bit. And I think that by uniting that little bit of time that so many Americans have, the 2 minutes to go to protruthpledge.org and sign up, that's 2 minutes. That's a little bit. But if we unite all these people and get 100,000 people to sign the pro-truth pledge, how powerful would that be? How many more people, public figures, would be incentivized to take the pro-truth pledge because it'd be like, 100,000 people are now paying attention to us. Well, wow. Sure, I'll sign the pro-truth pledge. That's a good reward. And so having that sort of lever, that sort of mechanism to get many people into uniting their small efforts into a huge, it's like how a snowball becomes an avalanche. Starts small, unites a lot of little snowflakes and becomes an avalanche. You can do that. And this is what the pro-truth pledge is meant to do. Unite a huge amount of people who have very little time and effort, but they can put in their 2 minutes to make this huge change for our society.
So if people want to get in touch with you, if not just for that pledge or just for your speaking engagements, because you definitely have a lot to share and to give, how would they be able to reach you?
The best method is to go to my personal website, which is disasteravoidanceexpert.com. So again, disasteravoidanceexpert.com, because bad decisions lead to disasters. And so that's where they can find more about me personally, my speaking engagements and so on, my consulting for corporations, for nonprofits. And they can always email me at Gleb, Gleb, @intentionalinsights.org, I'd be glad to chat about anything we've chatted about on this show and more. And they can check out the nonprofit where I serve as the volunteer president and to which I donate 10% of my income, intentionalinsights.org. Again, intentionalinsights.org. And finally, I encourage everyone to take 2 minutes to cast their vote against lies and for truth in our political system by going to protruthpledge.org and signing up. So take 2 minutes to go to protruthpledge.org and sign up.
And guess what, Gleb? You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a truth to remember you by.
A truth to remember me by. Let's see. I think a truth that I want you to remember me by is that I always strive to improve my own thinking and my own beliefs, and I welcome you to correct me if you think I'm wrong, so that I am more true and more accurate in my beliefs.
And thank you so much for your time, because I know you're a busy person. I really enjoyed everything you said.
Thank you so much, Linda.
And I really admire you because you give so much of yourself and you do have great accountability. And just to know that I say she your soulmate, because anybody that can enjoy you and what you consist of and your wisdom and your knowledge, I have honor for her.
She'll enjoy hearing that. And
I do. I mean, you're a unique individual. And like I say, your concern for humanity is just something I don't see to this capacity that often. And so I just really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm curious, Linda, will you choose to take the Pro-Truth Pledge yourself?
Sure. You know, the truth will set you free. I mean, you know, our paths didn't cross for nothing. Okay. You know, I was looking at that too. I wanted to talk to you before I actually did it, but I pretty much plan to. Like you said, I mean, it's less than 2 minutes.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you as a public figure get to also your public, you know, links to your show and anything you want in that public figure space. Wonderful.
Well, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Have a nice rest of your time today.
You too.
Bye-bye.